This is Olayinka Daniels, a legal practitioner in Lagos, and Nigel Mugamu, a journalist from Harare. They will be talking more on the press freedom. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on TVC News. Well, I'll start with you, Olayinka Daniels. We know about freedom of expression as well, but then is there a constitutional provision for freedom of the press?
Well, thank you very much for having me. Section 22 of the 1999 Constitution made it clear for the freedom of the press, though not categorically stated the way the 1963, that's the 1979-63 Constitution made it, gloaning, that it specifically stated the freedom of press. But here in Section 22 of the 1999 Constitution, it just gave randomly the freedom of the media to own media houses, freedom of press to generally talk about the maybe public affairs, to let the citizens know about the public affairs. Also, the government to also enlighten the people about the activities of the government and all that. I think Section 22 had already carved that. Then, in support of that, Section 39, that is Chapter 4 of the same 1999 Constitution, also made provision for the freedom of expression and of gathering of press. Also, we can still use that to back Section 22 of the same 1999 Constitution.
But operationally, how much impact has that had on the operations of the press?
So far, so good. There's a lot of lacunas in this, and that has not really helped the press. And if you notice, something happened last year when the House was trying to pass a bill, coming under the hate speech. Hiding under the hate speech. Meanwhile, probably the agenda was to suppress the press, and thank God that did not fly, because the people, shouted and they screamed against it, and it didn't fly. Only if we could pick from what happened in the US, the Congress made it clear that no law will be enacted against the press. No law. It made it clear. If only our National Assembly can also borrow from that, take a lead from that, then probably make such law. Because seriously, so far, we know what is happening to our press. And the truth is, if there's no freedom of press, then democracy is a mirage.
All right, we'll come to that. Let's quickly talk to Nigel Mugamu on the line from Harare now. Now, Nigel, when you look at the World Press Freedom Index, most countries have dropped. What does that imply when it comes to journalism and the freedom of expression or freedom of the press?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's obviously an indication of where we are in the world. There's so much more information now available than, say, 10 years ago. In your previous report, you spoke about people speaking about how Nigeria, given what's happening with some of the issues, the violence and so forth, is, makes it a difficult country to invest in, right? So, and of course, the part that I caught was the part where people are discussing this on various social media platforms. So, social media and the internet in general has opened up society in many, many ways, for those who obviously have access. So, yeah, a lot of countries, obviously, I'm not surprised that some countries have obviously dropped, and there is a hunger for information, generally by citizens. They want to know what's going on. They want to know what decisions and policies are affecting their lives for them and their children.
All right, let's bring it home now. Zimbabwe, according to Afrobarometer, says Zimbabwe is in a difficult situation when it comes to freedom of the press. What challenges are journalists facing there?
No, it's difficult. I run an online publication. I started 263 Chat almost 7 years ago now. Earlier this year, just to give you an example, we were tear gassed by the police. So they actually came into our office and tear gassed us and then barricaded us in the office. So, what does that say about how the authorities view the media? That's a very strong statement that they've sent. That look, we can do whatever we want. Now, for us, it hasn't deterred us from doing our job. We were simply reporting on there's a police operation with the municipal police here in Harare to try and get rid of the vendors off the street. And all we were doing was reporting on that issue, taking some pictures,
now, some persons are said to prefer the government owning media organization than individuals. Does this speak of the credibility that the media is bringing to the table?
Look, I'm an individual who owns this publication, you know, but, you know, we've created, together with the team, we've created a credible brand. You know, we report fairly. I don't think there are many people in this country who prefer the government to own, you know, or to influence media as much as they do. I mean, there are 6 radio stations in this country, national radio stations in this country. 4 of them are controlled by you know, directly by government. You know, is that a healthy situation to be? No, it's not. If you look at the largest media organization in this country, it's an organization called Zim Papers, a listed company that is controlled, you know, with a large ownership of government. Is it healthy for the economy? No, it's not. Is it healthy for the media? No, it's not. So of course there are players, small players like people like me and others out there who, and you know, people like Trevor Ngube with, you know, Alpha Media Holdings, who also want to, you know, partake in the media space, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
All right.
What I will say is nothing wrong with it.
All right.
What I will say is that, you know, media ownership shouldn't obviously interfere with the editorial policies of these media organizations.
All right, let's bring you in now. You spoke earlier about access to information, especially when we are practicing democracy. Now, with what you have explained as the provisions made for freedom or press freedom, does that in any way affect the vibrancy of the democracy we practice? 20 years of democracy.
Absolutely, because see, as at before 2015, on the records from the international body, Nigeria, we were on, before 2015, we were on 111th position as the countries that were dropping. And as at 2017, we fell to 116. Between now and then, we are on 122. Not even 120, we're on 122. Now, and this is democracy. So that tells us that there's still no freedom in quote, because if there is, some will not buy. That means the TV stations can say something, then the MBC, what do they call them? They shut them down. You cannot say something, you have been beaten. And again, the poor remuneration and all that they get, like the other, somebody said earlier, said, who can pay, get them to his own side. The same thing with the government here. The government shut some things down, and you don't really have that freedom in quote. And there's no how. If there is no freedom, and you call it democracy, if I don't have information as your citizen, and we talk about democracy being the government of the people, for the people, by the people. So if there is no freedom of media, if there's no freedom of the press, how do you call that democracy? I'll call it a mirage.
All right, Olayinka Daniels, Nigel Mugamu, thank you for your time on TVC News.